Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have a Netflix 366th film from 2021. It's the superhero comedy called Thunder Force. This one is directed by Ben Falcone. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Octavia Spencer, Bobby Cannavale, Pom Klementieff, Kevin Dunn, Melissa, Leo, and Jason Bateman. I am Jesse. I am your host. Thank you for joining me for this episode. This is the first sort of big-ish sort of film that we've had in a while that isn't an international film, an American film with a big cast. So hopefully some of you have seen this. If not, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because as we go, we will spoil this film, especially with our Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one is about two childhood friends who reconnect in later life to destroy supervillains. God, that's one of the worst Fast Flicks ever, I reckon. But there's not much else to say about this film, unfortunately. So let's look at how this one ended up on Netflix. So we go to March the 29th, 2019, where it was reported that Netflix had greenlit a superhero comedy film titled Thunder Force to be written and directed by Ben Falcone, with Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer as lead roles. Principal photography began on the 25th of September 2019 in Atlanta, Georgia, and wrapped on the 10th of December 2019. And that's about all about the actual making of. A few little behind-the-scenes things that we can talk about. There's multiple scenes in this film where Melissa McCarthy's character is meant to be eating raw chicken on screen. So, and this is to keep her super strength going. She actually ate really thinly sliced pears that were treated with citric acid and food colouring instead, so it was actually palatable. So interesting there. In the first 28 days of release, Thunder Force was watched by 52 million viewers worldwide on Netflix, so not too bad numbers for Netflix, you would say. Apparently, Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer have been friends for 20 years in real life, so that's why they did this one together. They had previously starred in a film called Pretty Ugly People in 2008 as well. This is the fifth collaboration between Melissa McCarthy and her husband Falcone as well. The tagline for this film was "Newly Super, Almost Heroes." So lazy. Other than that, the translations around the world. So Thunder Force, in the title means it's the team they create to fight evil in the world. So across the world, in Portuguese, it's called Thunder Squad. In Bulgarian, it's called Thunderous Force. Not bad, don't mind that one. In Hungarian, it's called the Strike Team. In Japanese, Thunder Force Superheroines of Justice. In Russian, it's Thunder Power. In Chinese, it's Goddess of Thunder. Makes it sound like it's a sequel to Thor. In Turkish, it's Lightning Power, Lightning McQueen. Arabic, Super Duo. And in Vietnamese, the Thunder Duo. So a couple of little different titles around the world. This did hit Netflix on the 9th of April 2021, as I said before, filmed in Atlanta, but there were some exterior shots done in Chicago too, because the film is supposed to be based in Chicago. This did win the worst movie of the year at the Golden Schmo Awards. I think that's Joe has a blog who writes about movies. That was his worst movie of the year. So that's probably telling you a little bit about this film and what the critics and audiences are going to say about it. So on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at 22%. That's on 143 reviews. So that is definitely rotten. The audience has it at 23%, 1% more, so a little bit higher. That's on more than 1,000 ratings. IMDb sits at a 4.6 out of 10 on 47,000 ratings. Letterboxd sits at a 1.8 out of 5 on 52, nearly 53,000 ratings. That is so low. It's been logged by 80,000 people. And finally, Metacritic, 34 out of 100 on that traffic light system. So that's on 34 critic reviews. This is definitely red. And the audience is at a 3.1 out of 10 on 116 reviews, also red. So you would say pretty negative feedback about this film. What are my early thoughts for this one? It's a rather dull affair. It's a very generic setup. There's very few laughs, and you sort of have to be desperate to want to go out of your way to watch this one, I'd say. Sorry, not going to be positive from me either. So let's talk about the characters in this film. This is where we start off with. So Lydia, that's Melissa McCarthy. Super sweet character, I guess, who doesn't necessarily think her actions through. She's more a brash sort of sit around, have a beer, just do what you think's the right thing to do. She's super loyal and will step in to defend anyone who is being wronged, including Emily, who's her best friend, who we'll talk about in a second. Her superpowers, they sort of end up being these super strength, I guess. And she gets these through multiple injections of needles. So that's sort of her character. She befriends Emily's daughter really well. They become good friends. But Lydia's sort of the comic relief of the film, I'd say. She's meant to be the funny one in this film. Her sidekick is Emily. So Emily lost her parents due to these villain monsters and has a lifelong goal to create superpowers to defeat them. So she focuses on studying, being intelligent, being smart. And part of this lifelong goal means that she's been a bit of an absent mother to her daughter. Her power, she gets this invisibility power, which is administered through tablets, which is meant to be funny because obviously I said before, Lydia gets her through these painful injections. So that's her there. Ali is, I guess, the third female character in this film that works with the girls to create these powers. She's a former CIA agent. She works for Emily's business. Tracy is is Emily's daughter, who has her intelligence genes, pushes her mother to sort of see the good in Lydia. Because she gets along with her so well, she connects with her, so that's a nice little connection there. Then the villains, or the bad people, we've got the king. He is this evil thug villain who has all these cronies doing his work for him. Just a very stereotypical villain. Jerry the Crab's the only other villain that sort of gets some character development. He's like this henchman who has crab arms, so that's meant to be funny, but he has this romantic connection with Lydia. He's got to deal with, I guess he's probably got the most development. He's got to deal with this idea of being loyal to being bad, or doing the right thing for his newfound love in Lydia as well. The other character I'll just touch on, Gonzalez. She's elected the new president, female leader, goes about politics the right way, and is almost the complete polar opposite to the king and his evil way of doing things. The director, Ben Falcone, 55 acting credits, very recognisable face. You'd recognise his face. 6 directing credits, mainly comedy, and as mentioned before, mainly done a lot with Melissa McCarthy, his wife. But we're going to talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What are some scenes that didn't necessarily work? So the ones that stood out for this one, Ali. Ali's this CIA former agent that's working for Emily, and as soon as Lydia sees her, she refers to her as Jodie Foster. I thought that was quite funny throughout. Lydia at one moment says she sprained her groin and questions, do chicks have groins? That was funny. Lydia and Emily, they go to Emily's mother's house to have dinner, and they're sort of like going to reveal, they've got a secret. They're going to tell her that they are the Thunder Force. And Emily's mother says, you're a couple. I knew we were right for each other. That was quite humorous. There's a scene where Emily cracks it at Lydia for throwing this bus, and they have this falling out. And Emily's daughter, who we spoke about before, Tracy, sort of talks to her mum and says, Lydia's such a good person. And Emily's response is, she threw a bus. That was funny. And finally, these villain-powered people, I think they were called miscreants, random name, but the crab, because he's sort of half human and has crab powers, he calls himself half Korean. And Lydia's like, are you half Korean? That was funny at this dinner scene where he also, he can't pick up a glass because of his crab claws and smashes it. It did go on for way too long, but there were 2 humorous moments there. What are some things that didn't work in this one? There's a few. So Lydia in the diner at the start, she's talking to this Frank guy who's like a mentor or a friend. He owns his cafe. He's got no customers because of all the villains in the world. And he goes on these random tangent analogies. That was just so bad. Went on for ages. This Clyde character, they introduce him in the start at school as this loser kid, is literally in the film for 2 scenes to deliver a knock-knock joke that does not land. I thought that was poor. Fortnite gets referenced by Lydia to try and be cool with Tracy. Just not needed, not cool. Lydia having to eat that raw chicken at any stage, I thought that was gross. The team coming up with that Thunder Force name and changing the volume of their voice to say, let's do it in a deep voice. Lame, didn't land. The purple car, there's this nice purple car that is their sort of like Batmobile almost. And they make this joke when Lydia and Emily get into it about them not fitting because of their body size. Really bad, because then they follow it up when they get out too, and it just wasn't funny. Although when they do see this nice purple car, Lydia does say it makes her ovulate. So that was funny, but just the whole making fun of their weight, that wasn't cool. Lydia meeting the crab guy. It's like the crab guy and these bad henchmen guys, they're robbing this little convenience store. And then they have this romantic imagination dance between them. That also wasn't funny. And finally, the jokes about the suits, the hero suits that the girls were wearing being smelly and not fresh, repeated, not funny as well. So a couple of things that didn't work in this film for me. What are some themes, some ideas in this one? So grief, the idea of overcoming grief and losing your parents and doing this by setting goals and overcoming evil, that plays throughout, and doing your parents proud. Friendship between the two leads is very important too. The ups, the downs, but always needing to support and stick by each other, even if there are disagreements at times too. And also the idea that heroes can come in all different shapes and sizes. Doing the right thing, being loyal, it doesn't matter who you are, being or doing the right thing is an important thing as well. What did I take away from this? The film is just a little bit dull. They have all these minor characters throughout for punchlines, but there's this one, and this one that really annoyed me the most is this Ellie character I mentioned before, working with the women, former CIA agent, helping Emily with the business. She literally is not in the film much, and there's this one scene where she sends Tracy, Emily's daughter, off to get coffee. And it was just so obvious and so poorly put together that this was a setup of her making the switch and being evil and setting them up. I hated it. I thought it was such a bad scene, and it just was rubbish. Alright, anyway, IMDb. Did I jump on and check anyone out on IMDb? I didn't, but as soon as Melissa McCarthy's husband was on the screen at that gas station robbery, recognised him straight away. I didn't realise, I obviously didn't look up the film beforehand, but I didn't realise he was directing it as well, but such a familiar face if you've seen some of the movies they're in together. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts. I get that Octavia Spencer has been friends with Melissa McCarthy for such a long time, but Octavia Spencer is a pedigree actress. Why would she agree to do this? I know that you're friends, but I don't know, I'd probably look at the script and go, hey, maybe think about giving this role to someone else, Queen Latifah or someone like that. I just feel like she's better than this. The only other thing, the king, the villain at the end, he gets captured, he gets locked away, but his main support person is Laser, this chick who's got these blue powers that can blow things up. They make a big deal about her escaping. If they did this in the hope of setting up a sequel, please, this is not going to get a sequel. Please, come on. Oh man, frustrating. Anyway, let's wrap this up. We give the film a rating out of 5. So for me, super disappointing. I think it looks fine. The performances, they're all good, but they're just given such horrendous material to work with. I can't even recommend this because even the worst DC or worst Marvel films are more entertaining than this. I'm giving this a 1.5 out of 5. Very ordinary from me. We're on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. The question on socials this week, I just wanted to ask, why is Melissa McCarthy, why are some of her films so hit and miss? Bridesmaids, really good. A couple of other, there's one where she's the spy. Is it Identity Thief, possibly? I thought she was really good in that. This one, I don't know, just is it the material? Because I do like her sense of humor. I really liked her in that sitcom that she did. I don't know. This one just didn't land for me. Anyway, let me know what you think. We are back next week with an international film from 2021. It's the Polish drama thriller called Primetime. This one is directed by Jakub Piatek and stars Bartosz Bielania, Magdalena Popławska, and Andreas Klak. Cool. Let's do it. Next week, Polish thriller. I'm on board. Hope you are too. As always, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week.